Well, good afternoon. Thank you so much for being here with me today. I'm Mayor Todd Gloria. I am so excited to be joined by our city attorney, the incredible Mara Elliott, as well as my former colleague and current state senator, Susan Rubio. Senator, thank you so much for coming down to San Diego. We really appreciate having you here in America's finest city. The three of us are here along with this illustrious group of San Diegans who are fighters for justice and for fairness to urge the passage of Senate Bill 538. This measure would allow the victims of violence the safety and the dignity of being able to obtain restraining orders through the virtual court appearances that have been common in the last year. We also know in the last year we've seen an uptick in domestic violence in our community and across our state. And with it, more victims have had to attend court to seek the protection they need from their abusers. Now, the silver lining in the pandemic, and there are just a few in there, these victims could attend court hearings and file documents virtually for the first time in state history. This has meant that victims have had a better way to seek justice, a less traumatic way to receive justice in California. I think we can all recognize how difficult it is for a victim to be in the same room as their abuser. And there can be logistical challenges that can cause a financial burden to victims as well. Survivors often have to juggle the needs and the cost of childcare and unplanned time away from work on top of the struggle of finding a safe place to stay. This is all in addition to the trauma already experienced. Through Senator Rubio's SB 538, protections for survivors are strengthened by requiring California's superior courts to maintain procedures to allow parties to electronically file for domestic and gun violence restraining orders. This bill also enables survivors and witnesses to appear remotely at the hearing on a petition. You know, as elected officials, we have a responsibility to create legislation that equips and protects people. Seeing the fight to get more laws added to the books that keep survivors safe is thoughtful and reflects the sensitivity needed in addressing their needs. Because of this bill, survivors will be able to take the steps necessary to get their lives back on track and to eliminate economic barriers and to begin the healing process. Survivors across California are depending upon us to protect them and help guide them through the tumultuous time in their life. Senate Bill 538 does exactly that. I'm pleased to be here, and as I mentioned, in partnership with our City Attorney Mara Elliott and Senator Susan Rubio. And I thank them for their willingness to use this non-traditional method in court as a means of offering peace of mind that I know will ultimately save lives. I thank them both for their leadership, and it reinforces what I think is often missing in public service, which is the fact that we are listening to the community. We have heard the calls from people who have been the victims of violence asking for this kind of solution. And what you see from our city attorney and from the senator is that we're listening, and more importantly, we're taking action. Now it gives me extreme pleasure to turn this over to my partner in governance here in the city of San Diego, our city attorney, someone who has a statewide reputation for working hard to make sure that guns are not in the hands of those who should not have a gun because of a criminal history or because of mental illness. She is known up and down the state as the person that is protecting people, not just here in San Diego, but because of her leadership, people all up and down California. I'm really pleased to have her as our city attorney, and I'm grateful for her presence here today. I'll turn it over to City Attorney Mara Elliott. Mara?
Thank you, Mayor Gloria. And as you can see behind me, there are a lot of cheerleaders who've long been waiting for the announcement that we're making to you today. I am San Diego City Attorney Mara Elliott. And I think we can all agree that no one should have to endure abuse from a loved one, or have to raise children in a violent household, or need to flee their home to save their life. Yet sadly, nearly 20 people experience this trauma every 60 seconds. After someone survives the unthinkable, we must do everything possible to help them obtain justice and to begin healing. Passing Senate Bill 538 does both. For years, my office has advocated for access to e-filing and remote appearances so that victims can avoid unnecessary and traumatic encounters with their abusers. This year, we found a champion in Senator Rubio, a statewide authority on domestic violence issues, and my office has been working closely with her on making remote testimony available to victims throughout California. We're grateful to have a partner in Mayor Gloria who understands the need to protect victims from additional trauma. Because of support from leaders like Mayor Gloria and Senator Rubio, victim service organizations like the people that are standing here with us today, right behind us, Senator Rubio has earned bipartisan support for her bill. Unfortunately, we cannot separate domestic violence from gun violence in America. A woman is 5 times more likely to be killed by her abuser if there is a gun in the home. And threats by current or former partners and family members account for more than 1/3 of the gun violence restraining orders that my office has obtained. For that reason, SB 538 also allows electronic courtroom access to those seeking to remove firearms from those who pose a threat to themselves or to others. Californians have spent the last year interacting online, and like us, our courts have learned that technology can be efficiently used to protect victims and promote greater access to justice. Before I introduce Senator Rubio, I would like to thank some members of my team who led this critical work. Diane Doherty, who served in our Domestic Violence and Sex Crimes Unit and now leads the San Diego Family Justice Center. Diane is a tireless advocate for victims and has worked on this issue for 4 years. Assistant City Attorney John Hemmerling, our unsung hero, who has prioritized justice for domestic and gun violence victims. Chief Deputy City Attorney Nicole Crosby, who helped make our gun violence restraining order program a national success. And last but not least, Supervising Deputy City Attorney Jeff Brooker, who leads our gun violence response unit and works around the clock to swiftly and safely remove guns from those who endanger our community. Now it is my great honor to welcome Senator Susan Rubio, a staunch champion for the protection of victims. We are so appreciative that she made this very long trip down to San Diego to stand with our coalition in support of her bill. So I turn this over to Senator Rubio.
Good afternoon. Well, first of all, I am honored to be invited to be part of this amazing group behind me who has joined together to fight this very important fight. Domestic violence is an uncomfortable conversation, but it's a conversation we must have. I stand before you as a state senator, but also someone who is a survivor. And I cannot thank enough my friend Todd, Gloria, who's now the mayor of San Diego, and also the city attorney, Mara, for taking on this fight. It is not an easy fight sometimes, and that's why I'm here to encourage all of us to really pay attention to victims. I used to have an image of what a victim looked like. I used to have a vision of someone that was assaulted with physical bruises, a broken bone. But I've come to learn through my own personal experience that goes deeper, much deeper than that. It is the trauma, an ongoing trauma. So when I became a state senator, I wanted to be that voice for victims. I knew that I had a fight that I needed to take on and really work hard to pass legislation to really give domestic violence the support they need. My first bill was about extending the statute of limitations for victims of domestic violence. California had a law that only allowed 3 years for victims of domestic violence to come forward. 3 years wasn't enough. It takes an average of 7 years to 8 years for a victim to really find their voice, get help, get over the trauma to be able to speak freely and truthfully. And that was my experience. So I was happy to be able to pass that bill that extended the statute of limitations to 5 years. Again, there's a vision of what we think a victim should look like, and that is walking around with bruises, a broken arm. Again, through personal experience, I knew that that wasn't the case. So my second piece of legislation that I felt was important to pass was defining coercive control. Understanding that domestic violence is way more than just a broken bone or a bruise that heals the next day or a week. The trauma endured through coercive control sometimes can last years. And that means not allowing a victim to be able to see their families, hang out with friends, telling them what to wear, what not to wear, withholding finances, not allowing them to be successful. It is a form of control to keep victims trapped in that relationship, ruining their credit so they're not able to go get another apartment, and they depend on the perpetrator to stay there. And so I'm so encouraged to see this great group of people who have become a coalition, and it keeps growing, to ensure that victims never have to feel alone. So to all the victims out there, we hear you, we see you, and we will not stop fighting for you. And now that we have this bill, SB 538, before us, we're all going to collectively fight hard to ensure that we are here to protect you. Remote testimony is critically important. I've been there. You have to face the person that harmed you. It's not an easy thing. And so I want victims to know that I understand personally, firsthand, how scary it can be. And sometimes people don't believe victims. I have to say, I was there at one point. I could not understand why victims couldn't just walk away. It is a complex issue that unless you're in their situation, we cannot judge. We just need to be there to support them. And SB 538 is a first step in showing them that we will continue to fight to ensure that they can tell their truth and not be afraid of stepping forward. We want to encourage all of those hiding in the shadows to come forward and feel safe enough to tell the truth. And for those witnesses as well to come forward and support victims. So again, I want to thank not only our press, but our Mayor Todd, Gloria, the entire coalition, City Attorney Mara Elliott, because I feel that this is a turning point. Every time we pass a piece of legislation, it continues to encourage those hiding in silence to come forward. And that is what we intend to do, continue to bring victims forward and show them that they can feel safe. So I want to thank you for having me here, and enjoy your day.